Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. This is Ishan Isaac with Ishan on air, and we have a lot to cover today. First, we'll get right into our main topic today, which is this war that has broken out between Iran and the State of Israel. And this is causing a lot of damage and destruction with both countries. Israel has taken out some of their key nuclear facilities, or at least damaged them, but the reports are still coming in, and it's developing news. And what we know right now, that Natanz nuclear site was damaged, not completely destroyed, and they're even now discussing BBB, which is not the big beautiful bill, but they're talking about bunker buster bombs. That's right, bunker buster bombs, and this would be at least 30,000 pound bombs. Because a 2,000 bomb will not penetrate and will not go anywhere. And they are talking about in the discussions and the chatter, and even on mainstream news networks in the West, where these sites are underground, and the nuclear enrichment sites in Iran. And Iran is actually two and a half the size of the state of Texas. So that is another issue with regards to this whole situation. As these missiles and attacks, as you can see on the screen on the right top quadrant or corner, you see this huge lightning, and I strike as if lightning has struck. No, that's a missile that penetrated the Iron Dome, and Iran claimed that 7 to 8 hit Israel and, in fact, Tel Aviv and some neighborhoods, and it was confirmed by Clarissa Ward of CNN and many others, where some civilians are injured, and in some reports 13 are killed, and in some reports 3 are killed, according to Wall Street Journal. And another local news channel reported dozens were killed in Israel. In Iran, scores of people have been killed. In some reports, 40 to 50 people, and in some 60. And then in Israel, 60 plus people have been injured. And again, this is definitely something of concern, not only to the West, but also for that region. And war against Iran. Iran fires over 200 ballistic missiles against Israel. And this is a third wave that they're talking about. And you can see some destruction, and they put this flag of Israel on this vehicle, which basically is burned without recognition. Again, IDF said that they are expecting more attacks from Iranian missiles, and this is where Clarissa Ward was there in some of the neighborhoods at the site of Iranian strike in Israel, and she reported that 2 women, 1 man and 1 woman, basically they were killed at that site. So 2 people died. And then the Iranian retaliatory attacks killed 3 in Israel, as reported by Wall Street Journal. In some reports, they've reported 13, not Wall Street Journal, but some other news resources need to be verified. And then again, in the war theater, both sides, they boast that they have victory and they have achieved their targets, but it's the people who basically suffer. And we are seeing a lot of children and women who are getting injured and dying as well. Iran warns of airstrikes on US, UK, and French bases. Why that would be dangerous, I think, is self-explanatory, because that means a broader conflict. The Daily Sabah, which is a news outlet, a news agency of Turkey, reported that Iran downs 2 Israeli fighter jets and detains pilots. That report is also by a government sponsored news agency of Turkey. So some may say that could be propaganda by Turkey, or some may say that no, it's valid news. So again, very difficult to validate and get credible information. But even this kind of a hint or even reports are not being shared in the Western media. I try to look with the major news outlets, and I didn't see any news regarding these two pilots and these two fighter jets that were down. Israel says over 200 targets struck in Iran as a wave of air strikes continues. Israel said on Friday that it had bombed Iran's underground nuclear site in Natanz, along with other military and nuclear facilities, and they also targeted some generals of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. As you can see on this, there are 4 or 5 sites that are allegedly uranium enrichment sites, and those have also been shared with Wall Street Journal and some other major news outlets. And those of you who are watching live can see this as well. Israel targets Iran's defense ministry headquarters as Tehran unleashes deadly missile strike, and you can see the destruction in Iran as well on this screen. And a lot of cars and people and these buildings were destroyed. Iran fires missiles at Israel in response to attacks, and the Ben Gurion airport, in fact, canceled the flights. And latest reports are that they were trying to open it, and we still don't know. We don't have eyes on the ground where people can confirm this, that whether the airport is now open or not. But the UN Security Council met on Friday, and I believe it was Saturday, and then they basically passed the resolution. 14 members of the UN Security Council, including the 5 permanent members, they all voted. However, 14 basically were in favor of and definitely against Israel, and there were no abstentions, and only one no vote was from the US. And this entire situation is still very fluid. I would also like to talk about the diplomacy is continuing. However, the Wall Street Journal had this headline: in twist, U.S. diplomacy served as cover for Israeli surprise attack. This basically was the headline from Wall Street Journal. And talks seem as a way to keep the peace, gave Israel the opportunity to find heavy military blows. That on Sunday, which is today, there were talks between the U.S. and others with Iran, and Iran then, when they were attacked, they said that we're not going to meet with anyone on Sunday in Muscat, Oman. There is some mega frictions breaking apart over Israel strike. Trump is cheerleading, as Mediaite and others, Independent has reported. Tucker Carlson, a very prominent figure, and he basically is on record to say that Tucker turns on Trump. Ex-Fox News host blasts, quote, complicit, unquote, president for backing Israel after attacks on Iran. He went on to say that he accused President Donald Trump by accusing him of being, quote, complicit in Israel's attacks on Iran, as reported by Independent news outlet. The former Fox News host and mega figurehead rebuked Trump and the administration in his newsletter titled, quote, "This could be the final newsletter before all-out war," unquote. Quote, "Despite being complicit in the act of war, the president hopes last night's events will help his ongoing nuclear negotiations with Iran," unquote, Carlson wrote. While the American military may not have physically perpetrated the assault, years of funding and sending weapons to Israel, which Donald Trump just bragged about on Truth Social, undeniably place the U.S. In these last night's events. So Carlson's newsletter basically is very clear. He has a lot of following as well, and newsletter went on to say that the U.S. is now, quote, in deep, unquote. Quote, Washington knew these attacks would happen. They aided Israel in carrying them out, unquote. Carlson confirmed and continued, quote, politicians purporting to be America first can't now credibly turn around and say they had nothing to do with it, unquote. So Carlson is out there, and he said what he said. Now, war footing, as the Sun newspaper reported, and online, Royal Air Force RAF fighter jets to be scrambled to Middle East as Israel-Iran conflict spirals and Tehran threatens to strike UK bases. So there are UK bases as well. That's why RAF, Royal Air Force, they have deployed their jets. IDF drone strikes Iran's largest natural gas field. Gas production partially suspended. That's the Jerusalem Post reported. And oil and gas prices have gone up tremendously in the past 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours. On the right-hand side, as you can see, the sea of red or orange, that's where in The Hague, in the Netherlands, where the ICC, International Criminal Court, headquarters is located. A lot of people, they actually protested, and they are also protesting, and they are also talking about, with regards to this whole, their country's policy. Tens of thousands joined protest against a state policy toward Israel in The Hague. And that's another news. Trump signals, quote, possible, unquote, U.S. involvement in Iran conflict. That was reported by DW, which is Deutsche Welle, the German news outlet. And then Anadolu, which is the outlet or news outlet of Turkey. Turkish President Erdogan welcomes Trump's remarks on ending Israel-Iran conflict. Trump's tone has changed in the past 24 hours. Quote, a war between Israel and Iran may be good for Netanyahu's domestic politics, but it will likely be disastrous for both the security of Israel, the United States, and the rest of the region, unquote. He added that the U.S. has no obligation to follow Israel into a war with Iran. This was Jack Reed, the top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee, also called on Trump to push for de-escalation. So some statements are definitely going to put a lot of pressure on both Israel and Iran. Some domestic news with Minneapolis shooting, suspect Vance Walter being hunted after Representative Melissa Hartman and husband shot dead in their home. And this person is still out at large, and the law enforcement, and they are looking for clues, and people who live in Minneapolis, they are trying to be on guard. Exclusive U.S. Marines carry out first known detention of civilian in Los Angeles. Video shows. So this was reported in the Reuters. The Posse Comitatus Act generally forbids U.S. military, including the National Guard, from taking part in civilian law enforcement. So this was authorized by the president, but this person is the first person. He's a U.S. citizen, Liao, or Lil, that's his name, who gained the U.S. citizenship through military services, said he was treated, quote, very fairly, unquote. Quote, they are just doing their job, unquote, said Liao, who is of Angolan and Portuguese descent. But remember, he's an American citizen. The 200 Marines and more than 2,000 National Guard now deployed to LA are tasked with protecting federal property and federal personnel. They will be joined by an additional 500 Marines and 2,000 more National Guards. So this is where the Reuters reported this exclusive U.S. Marines carried out first known detention of civilian in LA. On the domestic front, judge denies Palestinian activist Mahmud Khalil's request for release. This ruling basically helped the Trump administration cannot continue to detain activist Mahmud Khalil. So the judge sided with the government's interpretation of this injunction. So more trouble and problems for Mahmud Khalil. He is the one who was the leader of this entire protest at the university and at Columbia University, and the federal judge overseeing the case of Columbia University pro-Palestine activist Mahmud Khalil ruled Friday that he won't release Khalil from government custody. So he is a permanent resident. He has a green card, and Khalil's lawyers, they have submitted several declarations, including from UK embassy officials, corroborating information he submitted on his green card application. Additionally, his lawyers say that many of the articles the government is using as evidence of allegedly wrongdoing and other deportable activities were published after his application was submitted. They have argued in an immigration court that Khalil was a negotiator between CUAD, which is made up of dozens of on-campus groups, and the university's administration, and therefore couldn't be a, quote, member, unquote. So Khalil, as a green card holder who is married to an American citizen, has been held in Louisiana's detention facility since ICE agents arrested him in the lobby of his apartment building in New York City on March 8th. Immigration Judge James Comins ruled in April that Khalil is deportable based on Rubio's assertion that his continued presence and actions in the country pose an, quote, adverse foreign policy consequence, unquote. So this was reported by ABC News. And in a memo filed in the case, Rubio, he is the Secretary for State, oversees the State Department. Rubio wrote that Khalil should be deported because of his alleged role in, quote, anti-Semitic protests and disruptive activities which fosters a hostile environment for Jewish students in the United States, unquote. Republicans pray for Israel. So this is where a lot of religious sentiments are now associated with this war, and any war, when it becomes religious or has religious tendencies, it's a mess. And that's my humble opinion. And now here, numerous members of Trump's Republican Party in Congress were quick to voice support for Israel, with many calling for prayers for the U.S. allies, although it was Israel that initiated the attack on Iran. At least three lawmakers, Katie Britt, Rick Scott, and Gary Palmer, used the exact words, quote, please join me in praying for Israel, unquote, in their statements. House Speaker Mike Johnson also showed unflinching support for Israel. The U.S. Senator John Fetterman, now Republicans are not the only ones praying for Israel. U.S. Senator John Fetterman, he is a Democrat U.S. Senator, and with regards to one of the X post or on Twitter, formerly Twitter, the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, General Hossein Salami, was killed in the Israeli strikes, Iranian state media confirmed. So that's what he retweeted or reposted through his X platform, and he wrote three words. There's one letter in it too. Thank you, comma, next. So this is a U.S. senator, and that's what he basically said. Now, Senator Katie Boyd Britt, please join me in praying for Israel. She also wrote. Hawkish Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally, was among the first lawmakers to comment on the strikes. Quote, game on, pray for Israel, unquote. He wrote in a social media post. So you can see what's going on with regards to the U.S. lawmakers, senators, and some hawkish members and hawkish Republican senator like Lindsey Graham. So that's some more information. I would like to also share with regards to this whole situation where a lot of people are concerned, but at the same time, they are rightly concerned as well. Some are also asking the right questions. Quote, this attack by Netanyahu is pure sabotage, unquote, Castro said in a social media post. Quote, what does America first even mean if Trump allows Netanyahu to drag the country into a war Americans don't want, question mark, unquote. And that's precisely millions and millions and overwhelmingly and a number of Americans are actually asking this question. And if there is a referendum or if there is a ballot that we put it out there in every state, my heart tells me, and I could be wrong, but it's my personal opinion, that overwhelmingly majority of Americans do not want to see America dragged into this Iran-Israel war, period. And you may disagree. And loud voices does not mean that you can just win this argument. And that's why we are a nation of democracy and a nation of laws, although some laws are not being followed, as we can see in the media reporting and based on what's happening. But I hope President Trump listened to his heart and again takes this very seriously, because any involvement of U.S. in this war means we are putting U.S. interests in that region at risk. And that's not only what I'm saying, that's what independent groups are saying, neutral observers are saying, people who are working on both sides of the aisles are saying, people who basically look out for national interests and U.S. national security interests. That's what they're saying, because we may also lose our soldiers or our army personnel or Air Force or Navy or what have you if U.S. Directly gets involved into this. Right now, there's no evidence that U.S. is directly involved. Yes, U.S. is definitely involved in the defense of Israel. There were a lot of drones that were shot down by the U.S., but it's in defensive mode. So hawkish Democrats back Israel. And then there are some who wrote, for example, Senator John Fetterman rejoiced in the assassination of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Chief Hossein Salami. And then he wrote, "Thank you, next," unquote, in response to the news. And then Israel is right and has a right to defend itself, exclamation mark, unquote. Johnson wrote on his social media featuring the Israeli flag. Senate Majority Leader John Thune's defense of Israel was slightly less effusive as he focused his statement on U.S. interests. So this is the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, and I quote him. He said, "The United States Senate stands ready to work with President Trump and with our allies in Israel to restore peace in the region and first and foremost to defend the American people from Iranian aggression, especially our troops and civilians serving overseas," unquote. Thune wrote in a social media post. Now, when I was discussing this religious sentiments, see how religion is being used by Benjamin Netanyahu. He is the Prime Minister of Israel. The expression, quote, "rising line," unquote, from the line, "the people shall rise up as a line," unquote, in Netanyahu's note, comes from the verse 23-24 of the book of Numbers in the Bible. Quote, "Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion and lift up himself as a young lion. He shall not lie down until he eat of the prey and drink the blood of the slain," unquote. The verse is part of the first oracle of Balaam, a non-Israelite prophet and diviner, where he foretells the strength and power of Israel, comparing it to a lion, and will not rest until it has satisfied its hunger. How Netanyahu used a biblical prophecy to attack Iran, as reported by Economic Times and economictimes.com. You can Google it. And this is where the rising line drawing inspiration from a biblical verse. And he visited the Great Wall or the Wailing Wall as well and put his prayer there. U.S. cities brace for more protests. Back to our domestic news. Part of Los Angeles placed under curfew, and then Texas, the South, and the Midwest also saw a dozen protests where people are arrested in Austin. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said on X early Tuesday morning, this was last week, peaceful protesting is legal, but once you cross the line, you will be arrested, FAFO, unquote. Abbott wrote on X using the abbreviation for F around and find out, unquote. At least one person was arrested Monday in Dallas, police said, with charges pending as protesters and law enforcement met in a standoff that shut down a busy intersection. The Daily Texan reported that some 500 gathered at the Texas Capitol on Monday, while hundreds gathered in San Antonio, according to Spectrum News 1. And then Abbott, he's the governor, referring to the deployment of National Guard troops to LA, said on X that, quote, "an organized assault has been waged against federal law enforcement officers," unquote. And these are some locations of planned protests since Monday, but protests have even grown. And these are not only the list of cities from LA, San Fran, and from California to District of Columbia, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Maryland, Massachusetts. These are all states and different cities in those states where protests were occurring, but now more cities have joined the protests. And then New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, two cities in Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, and then Washington, Seattle. Seattle, Washington. Pentagon estimates sending Marines to National Guard to LA will cost 143 million. This was reported back in June, but it could be more in numbers, but that's the cost taxpayers will have to bear, all of us. California sues Trump over National Guard deployment to Los Angeles. So Gavin Newsom already sued the Trump administration. And these are some very disturbing images that I thought I would never see, at least for some time. We have seen in LA during the Rodney King riots as well, back in 92. And then again, with regards to this whatever situation that is basically happening. And then Waymo halt service in downtown Los Angeles after its taxis were set on fire. So again, these are some violent protests, and majority of the protests have been peaceful, but violent protests have no place in a peaceful and in any civilized society. Unfortunately, there are some people, they just need a reason, or like some politicians have reported that it's organized, but I don't know how organized it is. But sometimes there are different sections in the nation where some people, they just lose it, especially when they cannot take it anymore. But that does not mean, that does not justify violent protests. Here, Bullet, basically, while reporting in LA riots, there was a bullet, rubber bullet, but quote, "You just effing shot the reporter," unquote. And this was Australian journalist Lauren Tomasi. She was shot at close range with a rubber bullet by police while reporting live on the immigration protest outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, in a brutal scene that played out live on TV. These are not good scenes coming out of the U.S. Again, very sad to even report this type of news. Mexico president urges respect for migrant dignity, quote unquote, after LA unrest. And she also said that Mexicans living in Los Angeles should be treated, because they are hardworking men and women, and you can read her entire statement. So a lot is happening. And then with regards to University of Michigan has ended undercover surveillance contracts after Guardian revelations. That's right. So the Guardian is the news outlet, news agency of UK, and they undercovered and reported these revelations. So they were undercover surveillance that basically was happening. So outcry after report that private investigators had been trailing and recording pro-Palestinian protesters for months. What are you doing? That was the question that in last summer, Josiah Walker asked, who is a Muslim Safe member, knew he was being followed. He kept catching people furtively, recording him with their phones. So after a few encounters, he said he, quote, counter-surveilled. So he counter-surveilled as he was getting surveillance. I'm laughing about this, but it's not a laughing matter. In a university parking lot, Walker began recording several people in cars who had been recording him. One car accelerated toward Walker, who had to step out of the way to avoid getting hit. And as you can see, some of these images, unbelievable, but it's been reported by The Guardian. And the university has ended that surveillance program when it was revealed by The Guardian. Newsweek has reported some of these protests that happened this weekend. In Portland, Oregon, officers deployed tear gas and flash grenades with demonstrators breaching an immigration and customs enforcement facility, according to the Daily Mail, which reported that 4 police officers were injured during the clashes. In Culpeper, Virginia, a 21-year-old man, Joseph R. Cheklik Jr., was arrested after allegedly driving his SUV into a dispersing crowd in a parking lot, striking at least one person. No kings, that was the theme of all these protests all over the U.S., see major crowds, violence in some states, as reported by the Newsweek. Demonstrators turned out across the U.S. on Saturday to participate in coordinated, quote, No King's Day protests aimed at denouncing President Donald Trump's leadership. Now, with a very somber news reporting on 133 planes actually from Indian Airlines are grounded, according to Niti Aayog report. And this happened because of the devastating and very tragic crash within seconds, less than a minute. It was in the air. Air India went down in Ahmedabad. It was flying from Ahmedabad to London. And as you can see, these very terrifying images. So just cautious warning to all those who are watching this live. And then scenes from Trump's military parade. It happened on Saturday, and then he was also given this gift. Trump received this gift from his grandfather, birth certificate at the Oval Office, and German Chancellor presented this to him, his birth certificate, his grandfather's. So German Chancellor Friedrich Merz gifted U.S. President Donald Trump a gold-framed certificate of his grandfather, Frederick Trump, who was born in Germany, during their maiden meeting at the Oval Office on Thursday. Interestingly, the first name of Trump's grandfather matches with the German Chancellor's first name. And this was the grandfather's birth certificate. And he invited him to Germany. And then Trump repeated his grandfather's birthplace and said, quote, "That's seriously German," unquote. So this was some interesting background of even President Donald Trump. He's an immigrant. His family came from Germany. His grandfather was born in Germany. Now, with regards to the US, we are a nation of immigrants, and we are the land of immigrants, and we are the land of opportunities. So let's not have any kind of doubt in that. A lot of people may want to instill this idea and place it as a seed, thinking that it may grow. But this plant is not going to grow, and no matter how much water, and there won't be any sunlight that can get on these kind of ideas. So with that, please share, and I would like to thank our key advertisers as well. Our AITinsurance.com, Affordable Insurance of Texas, Affordable Insurance of Texas. You can visit them, AITinsurance.com. 713-785-4000 is their number. AITinsurance.com for homeowners insurance. Affordable Insurance of Texas will take care of you. Any homeowners insurance, any business, commercial insurance, what have you. Roopsari Palace, roopsari.com. Please visit them, roopsari.com. And again, roopsari.com is basically the business that you can visit in Houston, Greater Houston area at Hillcroft, or you can order online as well. Trendy menswear, shalwar kameez, formal wear, and men's trendy outfits, kurta pajamas and sherwanis. These are formal dresses, and for women as well, for bridals, and even for girls and boys of all ages. So I would like to thank our key advertisers. And with that, I'm signing off. And if you have not subscribed my YouTube channel, please do, and we'll be connected next time on Sunday.